All right, BMIS 270 online. This is Chapter 4, talking about telecommunications, the internet, intranets, and extranets. Okay, so the first slide we'll take a look at is what's a local area network look like? And so a LAN, we hear the term LAN, and that is the Helena College campus is an example of a LAN. So it's a lot of computers, printers, servers, other devices that are tied together into a local area network that are in turn tied into the cloud. Now, the internet is basically the cloud, and that just is really composed of a lot of smaller LANs, essentially. Now, a network is a connected system of objects or people, and a computer network is a collection of computers and other hardware devices connected together so users can share hardware, software, data, and electronically communicate. Okay, so within a building, within any kind of business or organization, this might look like your network. Okay, so a local area network connects computer systems and devices within a small area. So again, we're taking a look at a building, maybe a campus structure. We have actually a local area network between the airport campus and the Donaldson campus. Well, they are separated by space, but they are tied together with a segment of fiber, and it makes it look like a local area network to us. Now, also, I know that this says wide area network. If you look internally, though, internally in your house itself, that's a local area network. You see another local area network, and those two are tied together into a wide area network. A good example of a wide area network is Western, Montana Tech, University of Montana Missoula, and Helena College are all in the same autonomous system. And so within that system, those are a lot of smaller LANs, several smaller LANs tied into one larger wide area network. Now, here we have how do you access the internet? And of course, most of you know, some of you don't. You have to have a network interface connector or a network interface adapter. So in this case, what we see is a card, a network interface card, a NIC, that's actually put into a computer. It's tied into a slot on the system board, and then can be plugged into your network that way. Now here we have a USB port or USB wireless device that can just be plugged into one of the ports on your computer, one of the USB ports on the computer, and it'll wirelessly access your network. Okay, and so we have several different flavors of network interface cards, but that's really how you access a network. That's that single point. Now, we'll learn more about this later, but there are two different kinds of addresses that you use to get onto the internet or to connect to the internet. You have to have a software address, which is called the IP address, and you have the MAC address, or the Media Access Control Layer address, and that address itself is actually hardwired right onto this card. Now, the next piece of this is we have routers and switches. Actually, I should turn that around. Switches and routers. So a network switch is a computer network device that connects network segments. Now, if we look at this picture, here's this switch. Okay, now we have the different computers on our campus. Think about the computers in the computer lab there on campus. So that's tied into a switch. That simply allows you to connect additional devices into your network. So the term commonly refers to a multi-port network bridge that processes and routes data as the data link layer, or at the data link layer, which is layer 2 of the OSI model. Now a router, on the other hand, notice where these routers are. Here and here. A router forwards data packets along networks. So a router is connected to at least two networks, commonly two LANs or WANs, or a LAN and an ISP. So here we have this situation where we have a LAN and then the ISP in the cloud out here. So routers are located at gateways. So that also, that point might be considered a gateway. And then actually I should rephrase that, restate that the point on the other side is actually the gateway, the point nearest the internet. Okay, routers are located at gateways, the places where two or more networks connect. Okay, so here are some examples of your typical home wireless router. And here you have an access point, so this is a little bit bigger. It can handle a lot more devices, probably going to be on campus. And then an enterprise router is a big box that handles a lot of traffic. For switches, this is what a typical LAN switch looks like, or a local area network switch looks like. And most local area networks have several to many, so to speak, on campus. And then, of course, your typical home switch. Now, and this is, again, a picture of your local area network. And then we have the PCs, we have the connection between, we have switches that's extending that network and segmenting that network, and then we have the routers. That's a pathway that all these messages get off campus. Now, of course, we have this firewall, and this firewall is protecting, it's keeping people from accessing information they shouldn't on the way out, but it's also not letting people into our network. Okay, so those are the parts on that. Now, I've got a couple of videos, and when you run this presentation, you'll have the actual link you can just click on. I'm going to go ahead and go to Google, and then take this first video, turn it on. It's a minute 48 seconds.
What's the difference between a switch and a router? That's a paradigm of the ages, isn't it? Routers today are...
Okay, let's do this again. We're going to record. I have to set this up in the right way, so I'm going to turn off the audio so you won't get any audio reflections, if you will.
What's the difference between a switch and a router? That's the paradigm of the ages, isn't it? Routers today act like switches, and switches act like routers, and they kind of seem like they're all doing the same things. Look, it really comes down to a really simple thing. Switches connect all my computers together on my local network. That's what a switch does. It allows me to bring in 24 computers, 48, whatever the case may be. And a router is designed to be very flexible. It allows me to connect from one office to another office, connect to my office to the internet, and it allows me to change the interface cards on here to match whatever link is going to give me the best speed at the best cost for my business, and it allows me to grow and expand my businesses. Switches should actually be put in your network, and they shouldn't be replaced for 5 to 7 years. Typically, you buy a really good switch, it has some good security features in it, they'll remain in place for a while. A router I can put in my network, and I can pop out the interface cards as my business grows, as a business need happen, and really expand my network and grow my businesses. And as time grows on, I can actually, as my business grows, if you will, I can move that equipment down to another office and put newer equipment in. And that's really the difference between a switch and a router. It used to be measured on speed. That's really not the case anymore. Routers are just as fast as switches today. The real difference is one connects me to the internet, to other offices, the other connects all my local computers, and then we're ready to go there. It really makes a difference in buying a switch, because you really don't want to buy a switch. It's a router if you really don't need those functions, because those switches are a lot more pricey and you're really spending a lot of money that you may not really need to do. I'm Jimmy Ray Purser. Thanks for joining me today.
Okay, so that was what is a router versus a switch. And of course you see Cisco, that was the company that helped develop that particular video, and the next one as well. And of course they are one of the biggest providers of network equipment in the world. So that was a router versus a switch. If we pop back to this little picture, remember a router is here, and that forwards packets off of, and again we'll use campus as an example, off of campus, out of your network. So if we don't want people to go to a certain site, like for instance ESPN on a Monday morning, we just block that at this point. Now if we don't want people to get into our network here, we just block it at this point. So that helps us control that access. Now the next video is talking about, and of course a switch is what segments and extends your local area network. The next video talks about what is this firewall and what's it do, and of course these are short videos, but they're pretty good, pretty short, but to the point.
What is a firewall? Every small to medium business out there today, you have to have a firewall. If you're connected to the internet, you got to have one. What is it? What is a firewall? What makes it actually work, and why do I actually need it? Well, one of the things about a firewall that makes it great is that, in most simpler terms, it keeps anonymous users from the internet from connecting to resources inside of my business, and it keeps my employees from connecting to things on the internet I may not want them to, either through intent or just an accident type of thing. Now, a firewall is a device, it's a piece of hardware that has a predefined set of rules that says what people coming in from the internet can actually do on my network. Now, in today's networking, and the majority of small to medium businesses out there today, there's not too many reasons to actually have people from the outside come into my network. Even telecommuters that I have out there, they're usually VPNing into my network, and they're protected by VPN rules as well. Anonymous people from different parts, they don't really need to be out there. Now, so I can keep those folks off my network and block them and not allow them to eat up resources, keeping them out of my network. My employees, on the other hand, I may not want them accessing certain sites or doing certain things on the internet, like hitting FTP sites or music download sites, those type of things. And I want to be able to record the activity that's a violation on the network, and maybe how much bandwidth they're using. So I know maybe it's time to upgrade and get a bigger internet connection because I'm getting stuck up here and stuff. Any type of business out there today, you absolutely have to have a firewall. The critical things to look at is that it has good stateful rules and it has excellent reporting so I can see deep inside my network and I know what's going on. I'm Jimmy Ray Purser. Thanks for joining me today.
Okay, back to our PowerPoint, and then I believe that will conclude part one. But remember what we talked about. We talked about what this network looks like. We talked about what a LAN is, what a wide area network looks like, how we access the internet, and what are routers and what are switches, and also what are firewalls. Thank you.